Adam Schefter. Schefter, okay, that would be a massive gut punch for the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Sonic and Knuckles in the backfield, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, massive tandem, great tag team behind Jared Goff in that offense that has been so phenomenal all year, even though their defense has been so banged up. What do we know about this, and is there more to the story here, Schefter?
Yeah, well, essentially, he went out of the game briefly with the knee injury. And then after the game, he came out, and obviously they found that he's got a sprained MCL, and they think he's going to be done for the season. Now, I'm not proclaiming him to be out for the year just yet because he is getting further testing. He is getting a second opinion, and we don't know what that's going to uncover. But I would say that there's a sense and belief amongst multiple people right now that David Montgomery will not play again this season. And at the very least, he's going to be out indefinitely, if not for the rest of the season. Knuckles will be sidelined. I don't know how many blows one team can withstand. And I don't remember the last time that we've seen one team this decimated with injuries. They have essentially gone through an entire defense. Aleem McNeil tore his ACL yesterday. Carlton Davis broke his jaw yesterday. They're already without Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barr. We go on and on here. It's hard to line up a team when you lose that many players and are signing players off practice squads and off the street. And it's really disappointing because this team was positioned to have the most memorable year in franchise history. And maybe they still can. That's up to them to try to forge ahead. But it's not going to be without their challenges right now and all the injuries that they've suffered, especially this past week. Like this past weekend alone.
Yes.
Aleem McNeil.
Got it. Carlton Davis, yes, and now David Montgomery. Hey, so we've been talking about this for a few weeks now. This has kind of been like every single week they've lost big names on that defensive side. Yep. But they've continued to win games somehow. And the question was, when will they be able to when will it all kind of come to a head? Feels like now is the time, but they also took on Josh Allen, who is in the middle of a historic run. What he has done over the last few weeks, let alone the entire season, is very, very notable. Their defense hasn't been able to get a stop either. I mean, the last 2 weeks, their defense hasn't been able to stop anybody. I'm excited to see how this whole thing, Detroit, I do fear probably,
Yeah.
Listen, Pat, as a Detroit Lions fan my entire life, you've been through a lot of pain, probably more pain than any other franchise in any other sport in the history of sports. And this one's just completely different. We finally had the team. We're finally here. We're finally going to win the Super Bowl, and it's just every single player is eliminated. And on defense, that's fine because our offense can score 40 points a game, and I thought we could still win a Super Bowl by doing that, but you lose Montgomery. It's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, so let's talk about the team in the NFC that does seemingly have all three phases working together, the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one big happy family. Everything's good over there in Philadelphia. What's the drama this week coming out of Philly, Schefty?
Well, I think if you saw the sideline video yesterday of Nick Sirianni and Jalen Carter kind of exchanging some words there on the sideline, that's begun to get some traction. Here's the replay of that particular incident where Nick Sirianni goes over there, and I can tell you what happened was Jalen Carter got hit twice in the head by a couple of different Steelers, was frustrated, went out on the special teams. I think it's a punt return, slaps the guy in the head. Nick Sirianni goes over and says something, and it leads to the exchange that cameras captured there on the sideline. Obviously, Jalen Carter did the wrong thing after he felt like he was hit twice during the game and then hit somebody else, took it out on somebody else. And then him and Nick Sirianni exchanged some words. Nick gets emotional, as we've seen throughout the course of the year. What's amazing is, again, the fact of the matter is they've won 10 straight games. There's never been a Philadelphia Eagles team in the history of the franchise that's ever won 10 games. And so we can get all the barking on the sidelines. We can get the quarterback and the wide receiver disagreeing and then go out of their way to celebrate touchdowns in the end zone together, which was so predictable. You knew that was going to happen yesterday. That was the easiest call ever, where Jalen Hurts is going to find A.J. Brown in the end zone, deliver the pass, does that, and it's a situation where they go and celebrate to show everybody that they are on the same page, that they're simpatico, that they're good. And again, 10th straight win. That's the most important part. And right now, they are playing the best football of any team in the NFC. You can make an argument for the Green Bay Packers. We'll see what the Vikings have tonight. But the Eagles right now look like the best team in the NFC.
Not just the NFC, potentially the entire NFL. They took on a team that was high in the standings of the AFC and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about some of their situations brewing. TJ Watt gets hurt middle of game. Didn't look that bad, but he ended up leaving and limping, obviously. I think a low ankle sprain is what was being reported. Is that what you're hearing as well for TJ Watt? That is a massive piece of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense as they try to continue to hunt this playoff season.
Well, that's what he said after the game. Now, again, the danger of this is usually that's almost always right. And then there are the cases like David Montgomery where all of a sudden you find out that the damage is worse than you thought and a guy's going to be out longer than you thought. He went down there. He was in pain. He was obviously grabbing that left ankle. He said it was an ankle sprain, but there's obviously going to be further testing to see how long he could be out. And hopefully it is nothing more than the ankle sprain, the low ankle sprain that he thought it would be after the game. But let's see what comes back today on the tests.
Okay, so let's stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers. George Pickens, we got some stats from Hembo of what that offense has looked like with George Pickens and without George Pickens. And obviously the last two games without Pickens, their explosive plays have gone down, which has become a very important stat in all of football. Mm-hmm. Explosive plays is becoming like almost field position now. How many explosive plays do you have will normally indicate how many wins you have in the season and in the game. George Pickens being out has hurt the Pittsburgh Steelers. What is the update on him? Because they have 3 games, 11 days, as well as the next team we're going to ask about, which is the reigning Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, I figured you'd ask about them at some point in time. But the way I understood, I don't know, somebody texted me earlier in the week that George Pickens could have a grade 2 hamstring injury. And I don't know if that's right or not. Somebody texted that. I never confirmed that it was true or not. But if it is grade 2, that's like a month injury, usually. And so with these short games and with him not practicing this past week, I think it's fair to say, at the very least, that his status is in question for these upcoming games. And hopefully he can recover and make it back. But at the very least, there is a question about whether or not he'll be able to go. If it's grade 2, that's got to be at least a month.
Okay.
So
that happened in practice too, on a Thursday. It happened in practice.
That's correct. Yep. Initially, yeah. He woke up Friday. Hamstring didn't feel well. They thought he went through the walkthrough practice that Saturday. They thought he was going to be able to play. He went to the stadium that morning. They met and decided to shut him down. Okay,
so I don't want to find a silver lining in the playbook here. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles legend Bradley Cooper. But if he's pulling his hamstring on a Thursday practice, that means he's going.
Sure.
So hard. Pickens is working his ass off in these practices, almost too hard. Okay, so whenever he gets back, obviously Russell Wilson will be excited about that. Let's talk about the team that you said I'm sure you're going to ask about. There's a quarterback who is seeking to do something no NFL team has ever done before, which is win 3 straight Lombardis. Scary situation over there. Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Schefter, we're talking about Patrick.
Hold on, before Tone, some good news for you. Mike Tomlin just said that he's optimistic about TJ Watt's availability and that he said he's walking around okay and that there's a chance that Watt will be able to play against the Ravens. So there you go.
Okay. It's good for football. Good for football having TJ out there.
That's huge because Saturday is the game is for the AFC North Championship. Patrick Mahomes. They have the Steelers coming up on Christmas Day. Before that, I believe they have the Texans. So 2 big games coming up. You know, while they're still trying to get that number 1 seed. We saw the injury to Mahomes yesterday. We saw Wentz come in. I believe it's being reported as a high ankle sprain. Do we have any idea the severity of it yet and what the Chiefs potentially plan on doing with these 2 games that are in a very short time table?
Well, again, it's a similar situation again where that's what they thought after the game, that it was a high ankle. They were coming back to Kansas City. He was undergoing additional testing today. And let's just assume that it does show your garden variety high ankle sprain, which isn't exactly garden variety anyway. But if it is indeed that, I mean, he's played through that injury before. He's been out there. That guy is exceedingly tough and finds a way to get on the football field. The problem that they have now is they got Saturday, then Christmas Wednesday. The schedule is not working to his favor, but he's got a history of playing with this injury. We'll see if he can make it through it this time again. And I just think he's so tough. He usually finds a way to get through these things, but we'll see what the testing this afternoon shows. and if he can make it back on Saturday or not.
You literally never know the severity of a Patrick Mahomes injury because he'll just stand out there on the sideline when other guys with that injury would have to go into the back. They come out completely changed, have a hoodie on and everything like that. I think Patrick Mahomes legitimately would have to get dragged off a field if anything was to happen. So it's tough to kind of gauge where he's at. All we need Patrick Mahomes to know is Godspeed, bud.
Yeah, 15. Good luck.
And we appreciate how you represent our league, pal. You're a tough guy.
Remember when we were analyzing him walking down the steps of the podium last year or whatever?
Yeah.
This is like every year for him.
It's becoming the end of the season. Tough football, tough guy, tough situations, tough decisions have to be made by Andy Reid on the good of this week and then the good of the future potential Carson Wentz football out there, which is exciting. Now, is there other players for the Chiefs that are returning? D-Bud has a question for you.
Yeah, Pat was talking about explosive plays. Obviously, the Chiefs' offense kind of been missing that. Hollywood Brown, saw some news with him being back at practice, maybe trending to come back. Any truth to that?
They've always thought that they'd be able to get him back at the end of the season. And so we're getting close to the end of the season. We'll see if he can make it back here in the regular season or not. But I think that they've always felt like when the playoffs rolled around, that Hollywood Brown would be back out there giving them another target to give to Patrick Mahomes. And so obviously you go out and you add DeAndre Hopkins and you get back Hollywood Brown. And they've been through so much of that position. But I think the sense all along has been that he would be there for the playoffs. And now we'll see if there's a chance that he can make it back here any sooner in the regular season. Maybe give him a Christmas Day present. That would be a nice thing to do, right?
Yeah, well,
maybe.
especially if Carson's playing.
That's the biggest Christmas gift of all.
Oh, my God. Carson Claus coming down the chimney with Hollywood Brown?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Wait, so you don't think Mahomes is going to make it back by Christmas Day, huh?
No, I think Patrick Mahomes, Christmas Day is only, 9 days?
No,
from Wednesday.
playoffs are more important. He should not.
No, and listen, I know the number one overall seed and everything, and that Patrick Mahomes is incredibly tough, and it's Christmas on Netflix. I assume Patrick Mahomes is going to show up for that. But if he doesn't, and it's Carson Wentz football, good for the NFL.
Pumped.
That the worldwide Netflix audience get a chance to watch an electrifying football player.
Yes.
I got a chance to experience Carson Wentz ride for 1 year here in Indianapolis. It's something. You got any news that's coming through the line right now?
Yep, the Browns are unsettled on who their starting quarterback will be this week.
Oh, no.
No.
Wow. That's something.
So,
No pick six.
James.
yeah, it could be, well, we'll see. It could be Jameis Winston, it could be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But anytime a coach is talking like that, the way Kevin Stefanski now is about their upcoming matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, usually coaches don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, that's unbelievable that I could press send on that tweet literally 3 seconds ago, and it can be on your screen in an instant. That is amazing to me. Wow.
Yeah,
okay, so there we go.
Technology's fantastic, and if one of your feeds into your board is Zito's computer, anything that's on Zito's computer screen can be up there.
Wow.
Now, Zito's got to keep that screen.
Clean.
You know what I mean? Zito,
Careful.
let's delete these
program.
cookies.
Show the tab.
Let's delete these cookies out there.
Cookies deleted.
But if it's on the internet and we can get access to it, we can get that thing up. And Zito's got quick fingies.
Yes, he does.
He's got
He
quick-
sure does.
He's got
He
quick
sure does.
Okay, let's stay with the Browns, I guess. Myles Garrett, okay? I know Tooney moves from guard to tackle and has Myles Garrett. Shout out to Tooney, who's an absolute dog, by the way. And Andy Reid going like, anybody want to protect our quarterback? Tooney's like, never done it. Don't have the feet for it. Don't have the body for it. But
That's crazy.
shit, I'll go out there and do it. And then does and has Myles Garrett. And then inevitably something happens to Myles Garrett's eyes. I don't know if it was hand, if it was helmet, if it was a combination of both. Is he going to be okay? Because he got back out with a visor on. Is he going to be all right?
Yeah, we came back out there. I have not heard the extent of the injury, but usually, obviously, when the guy comes back in the game, you think that he's okay. I'm sure he's playing through something there. I don't know what happened exactly, but you can see the respect that he has, rightfully so, from all these other players that come over and are checking on him as soon as he gets hurt. The Chiefs I'm talking about, they were concerned about the guy. He's that good. He's that well-respected. Got something, but the fact that he finished the game tells me he'll be back out there playing through whatever it is that he suffered yesterday.
Tooney's a dog.
Weapon.
What a beast.
What you can do.
When AQ comes in here on Wednesday, he'll try to explain like what he did and how different of a world it is out there at tackle versus guard or center.
Yeah.
And in body type and build and traits, everything that you need to be a tackle, which is why they hold tackles in such high regards. So for Tooney just to drop over there against Myles Garrett, What a dog. Once again, that's why the Chiefs is still the Chiefs.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the type of thing that makes the Chiefs still the Chiefs. Now, let's talk about an NFC team that we thought was potentially going to win the NFC West. Now, massive question marks over there in Seattle. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Chef, did you have any update on Geno Smith? Last night, it didn't look too bad, but he obviously couldn't come back in with the knee. And Mike McDonald did say after the game, again, we don't know, but it seemed like they avoided catastrophe. But based on what we saw out of Sam Howell and with them kind of still in that playoff position, obviously they dropped out losing last night. But is there any chance that Geno's going to be back for next week against the Vikings? And then obviously what might be a winner-take-all game, Week 18 against the Rams?
Yeah, 9:36 on the West Coast right now. So obviously going to go through tests today to determine the damage on that knee. He didn't come back in the game last night. Didn't look like he was going to come back in the game. They said after the game that everything was structurally sound, which was encouraging for the future. But they did not know whether he would be able to play this week against the Minnesota Vikings, who are coming off the short week tonight after their game against the Bears. So, again, another one of these that I think at best his status is uncertain for the upcoming week. Status is in question. He can't start. Sam Howell would start, but look, he went limping off the field. It didn't look right to me. Fortunately, it was nothing structural for the time being, pending further testing.
Godspeed, Geno. Rams, Seahawks, last week of the year. That feels like NFC West championship game, and we can't wait for it over there. Now, before we ask about tonight, let's one last thing from tomorrow, or from yesterday. Controversy. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Schefter, almost a huge screw up at the end of the Saints-Commanders game yesterday. Spencer Rattler leads the Saints down. They get the ball inside the 5-yard line with less than 15 seconds to go, but for some reason, the referee decided to continue to run the clock. He comes in from the bottom of the screen here, and he blows the play dead. Has the NFL said anything? There he is, kind of spotting the ball. Clock stops, and it seems as though the clock would have run out if he didn't have that call on the field, and the clock stopped at 9 seconds for 2 or 3, maybe even 4 seconds there. Has the NFL said anything about this? Because this was almost one of the biggest screw-ups that we've seen in a while, because the Commanders, I mean, that was a huge win for them, but after they score the touchdown on this play, they narrowly miss the 2-point conversion. So has the NFL said anything about this kind of snafu at the end of the game?
I have not heard from the league about that. If the league is watching and wants to text me something that I could read to you guys, a statement about that particular ending, I'm open to that right now. But I have not heard anything particular about the way that game ended right now.
That's a interesting, because they're and we saw Hockey Lee with the pool reporter afterwards say, side judge blew it dead. It's not reviewable. Do you have anything else to say? It's not reviewable. I don't know what to tell you. And then obviously many on the internet, including Warren Sharp, said this is unacceptable. And it's like, I think what Hockey Lee was saying is, yes, blowing the play dead is unacceptable. And there should be some sort of conversation here, but there's nothing we can do about it after that happens. And that side judge, I was watching, it was on one of the 4 boxes. It was on one of the 4 boxes on TV. So I didn't fully understand. I'm like, oh, good timeout. Smart stuff, Riz. I was like, Rizzy, what a genius, keeping the timeout all the way for this exact moment. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching the full scramble, panic, and I'm like, and then the clock started rolling again. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then did the side judge think it was call it? I don't.
I'm saying, what would make him?
I have no idea.
It's crazy.
I have no idea what happens there. But I think the spread ended up being 8.
So 7.5.
7.5.
8, yeah.
So the spread was 7, or the game there, 2013, that's 7. Could you imagine if that?
Oh man.
It didn't. I mean, we're a half point off.
There were 7s at some point during the week, but most of the week was 7.5.
But if that swings a cover the other way, oh, buddy, especially if it was a public loss afterwards, as opposed to, like if a public wins after this, that'd actually kind of be like a good play for the NFL to maybe script into their script so people say or stop saying that it's scripted.
Right.
But if this was to swing from one way to another, boy, it would be much louder than it is right now, because I think a lot of people just consider this a who gives a crap game. Commanders get a win, let's move along. It was like they were very close to not. And then also there was a massive flub at the end of that thing from our officials who have been good this year, I think. There's only been a few that have been absolutely terrible. That could have been catastrophic, Schefter.
There have been many instances in the past, and I've heard people complain about it, that, and again, this was not one, but it's an example of it, where a game is decided by a call, a controversial call that influences the ending. And then the result of that game is obviously factored into whether coaches are kept, front offices are kept. players. Calls like that impact jobs and people's security and their lives. And we've seen calls made that have gone the other way, that have hurt people. People lose jobs, and it just shows you how much is riding on these games and how important the officials' jobs are.
Yeah, and we'd like to say the refs, great season. You guys had a great season thus far. Let's finish strong. And a lot of people are mad at Hockey Lee for his answer. I think Hockey Lee was pissed at his guy for even making that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think that is probably yeah, Hockey Lee's not happy about that. Hey, you just embarrassed not only me, the game, you in the NFL. So whenever people are like, need more of an answer out of him, I think Hockey Lee was just giving like the reality. Like, what he wants to do, put a stopwatch on,
right?
How long it was stopped for, and then do some math and redo it. Maybe that is the right play. But they had 3 seconds when they stopped it. Would that have had 1 second? Was that a 2-second stoppage, or was it 3 and a hook? Because if it was 3 and a hook, that game's over. And once again, the fact that it didn't affect the gambling is the most important part.
So massive.
Yeah, because the money line still remains the same.
Yep.
Because like them not getting the 2-point conversion.
Huge.
Yeah. Everything that had to happen here, very, very huge for the PR of this shit. But if this would have changed money line, changed cover, changed any of that, it was a public. Geez.
What was the over?
What was the over under on that game?
It had to be more than that.
Yeah, I want to say like 44.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So under hit still.
Under was still hitting.
Yeah. So every bet still hit. If one of them doesn't. So much louder. And that's why I think Hockey Lee is like, get this guy off my crew. Can't have that panicking. Fourth quarter, less than 10 seconds left, full panic. Can't have that.
No.
But once again, to the refs, you guys have had a great year. We'll never forget it.
Right.
You got to give them some,
The most important time. Yeah, most important. Can't screw up at the end here. Okay?
Can ruin the whole season.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have a couple bets. Start stacking these on top of each other.